Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as Ruben Amorim answers questions about Garnacho's future. It's also match day. He's been speaking about players that will play in that. We've also got a lot of transfer updates, especially around the left back situation as well. But let's start off with Garnacho. It's up to Garnacho, says Daniel. What I do actually agree. I think the player obviously has a massive part in what their future is going to be. But interesting, isn't it? Last night I was saying that it's very interesting, I think, how certain ex-players of Manchester United can't keep their mouths closed. About whether Man United are changing their kit in the summer when Mourinho was in charge. But since Ineos have come in, very quiet. Why is that? Well, a certain ex-player has actually had something to say about Garnacho departing Manchester United, and I would say cynically, it's the sort of PR they'll want because it's pinning it on Amorim, which I just do not agree with. So, Garnacho, obviously we spoke about last night, you know my stance on this. Where are we at with this? Well, Napoli are interested, but this is what Ruben Amorim had to say about it, because some people are trying to make out Amorim has come in and said, you know what, I know Eriksen's in his 30s and done, Casemiro's in his 30s and done, Lindelof's in his 30s and done, and Anthony is an absolute waste of time. But let's not worry about those players that I don't even use. Let's get rid of Garnacho. Just makes no sense. You know what, I'd really like to get rid of a 20-year-old that I could actually mould into something really good. Doesn't make any sense. So he was asked about this. Does Garnacho have a bright future at Manchester United? And Amorim said, in his own words, that is clear. He has talent. He needs to learn to play in a different position. He needs to play better inside. He improves a lot in the recovering position when he doesn't have the ball, but doing that, sometimes he's not in the right place to make transitions like he was in the past. I prefer to defend and then build up with all the team to reach the final third. He's finding the best way to play in this system. He's improving during training. He started the last game. Let's see tomorrow. I think he's changed the way he sees himself. So Ruben Amorim essentially saying, look, this player has a future with me at Manchester United. This player is talented, but this is a player that we all know is adjusting to a system that he hasn't played before. And therefore, it's going to take some time. I absolutely, thoroughly believe that there is nothing stopping Garnacho from playing in behind the striker in one of the two positions that Ahmad can, and potentially even down the left-hand side like Ahmad can. He's 20. He's 20 years of age and the talent is clearly there. So that is what Amorim is saying. And to be honest, I can't think of a manager that goes into a football club like Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal, is handed 19, 20-year-olds with talent and goes, sell them. Yeah, get rid of them. Yeah, go and get me a 25-year-old instead. Especially when you've got a pile of crap over 30. It just doesn't happen. And that's not what's happening. And I think some people are trying to put it out there that Amorim has walked in and gone, yeah, get rid of Garnacho, he's rubbish. What's happening here is exactly what we know is happening. It's Glazer-nomics. Ruben Amorim's walked in and said, I need this, this and this. And the old Glazer-Ineos relationship have gone, that's absolutely fine, but we don't have a pot to piss in. We've got no money. So if you want that and that, you've got to sell something from here. Okay, I want to get rid of Casemiro. I want to get rid of Eriksen. Yeah, no one wants them, so you're not going to get enough money for them. Okay, how do I get that and that? Well, you'll have to sell Garnacho or someone like that. And then Amorim's in a position where he thinks he's at Man United and he's at Everton because he's got to sell to buy. And that's essentially what's happening. But it's interesting what Gary Neville came out with, because I said this yesterday. He's very quiet about charity being cut from Charities for Ex-Players of Manchester United, which I would have put money on if 2 years ago the Glazers had removed money for an ex-Manchester United player charity. I think he would have gone crazy. Look at how he reacts to politics. He'd have gone mad. Said nothing. Apparently he's got a relationship with Ineos, but he said nothing. People getting sacked at the club. I think he'd have gone mad a couple of years ago. Ticket prices going up. I mean, Scholes has said stuff on the overlap, but we've not heard anything from Gary Neville. And then Man United are looking to sell young players like Mainu or Garnacho. I mean, look, Gary Neville is a guy that when Rio Ferdinand failed that drugs test, he wanted England as an England player. He wanted England players to go on strike in support for that. He's a very opinionated person with very strong principles who seems to not be saying much about the club he loves at the moment, in my opinion. Maybe some people are unfair, think that's unfair. Well, maybe it was unfair because he has spoken about it. He spoke about it this morning on The Overlap, and this is what he's had to say about Garnacho. It's been in the news in the last 24 hours that bids are coming in for Garnacho. There's been stories about Rashford going on loan or to another club. It genuinely wouldn't surprise me if Ruben Amorim has made these types of calls. I don't think he's got anything to lose. This will be a big transfer window. It might not be as big as we think, but if Garnacho and Rashford were to go, they would be big moves. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a mini clear out and we bought in 1 or 2 players. I mean, look, I'm sure a lot of you will listen back to that and go, I agree with Gary, it's a good point. And maybe it is, and it is all about opinion. But this worries me because I don't see it like that at all. If I'm interpreting Gary properly, I think he's saying that Ruben Amorim has come in and said, get rid of Garnacho and Rashford. And I think that's exactly the sort of story the Glazers would want, because they don't want to be the people that are selling young players. So they would like to put it on to Amorim and protect themselves. I don't believe this. I actually think this is nonsense. I actually think Gary Neville should be saying, hold on a minute, Roy, when we were at Man United, what would we have done if we were in the team and we were selling Scholesy at 20 years of age, or Wes Brown at 20 years of age? We'd go absolutely crazy about it, because that's not what Man United are. But now he's sat there going, you know what, I'm all right with this. You know what, I'm okay with this. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with this. And I think this doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add up. And when you listen to, the funny thing is, you've got Gary Neville on The Overlap saying, I wouldn't be surprised if this is Amorim saying, let's get rid of Garnacho, let's get rid of Rashford. And also, why are Garnacho and Rashford always thrown in on the same thing? Marcus Rashford has had 10 years at Man United. He's 27. He's done an interview saying he wants to go. Garnacho's 20. They should never be thrown in together. They're not the same situation. But you got Gary and others coming out saying, I reckon this is Amorim getting tough on players. And then you've got Amorim saying, no, he's got a future at this club. I'm working with him. He's a big talent. So it doesn't work, does it? It just feels to me like the spin that we fear could still be winning at Man United, because I only see one solution here. I only see one outcome. We've got no money. We need to sell. We're Everton. We need to sell to buy players. And that is effectively what Gary should have said. What he should have said is, it looks to me like Amorim wants to bring players in, but there is no budget. So Ineos/Glazers are saying, if you want to buy players, you've got to sell players. And the players that you want to sell, we can't sell. So you're going to have to sell good players to get money in. So effectively, Manchester United are a selling club now. In which case, Roy Keane and Gary Neville should be losing their shit, going, what the hell's going on at Manchester United? Why have they become a club that needs to sell their better players to bring other players in? Because that's what we're talking about. We're not selling... In the very simple sense, I was thinking about this last night because it was such a long show last night and there were so many brilliant comments from you. But however you dress it, if Manchester United sell Kobe Mainoo to bring money in, we're selling one of our best players to generate money. If Man United sell Garnacho to bring money in, we're selling one of our best players to bring money in. Now, you might not rate Mainoo, might not rate Garnacho, but factually, they are two of our best players. If we sell Bruno to bring money in, we're selling one of our best players, even though some of you don't like Bruno. That basically ends the lesson. We're selling our better players to bring money in. No club does that. That doesn't work, especially when they're young players that haven't reached their potential. I mean, look, if you've got a 29-year-old, and I mean, look, classic Real Madrid, if you know Varane and Casemiro are going to fall off a cliff in the next 2 years, and some twat called John Murta knocks on the door and says, we'll pay full price, you're going to do the deal. I'm sure there was some Real Madrid fans who thought, why are we selling Varane and Casemiro at 29? But Real Madrid knew. They knew what they were on about. They took us to the cleaners for 2 players that barely gave us a year. But we're not talking about a 29-year-old here. If somebody came in and offered us £100 million for Bruno Fernandes, you might do the deal if you know Bruno's going to drop off in the next 18 months. But we're selling 20-year-olds. I'm disappointed in what Gary said, to be honest. As an ex-player of the club, as a legend, there's no way he would be on board with what we're doing. But I don't know what's going on with Ineos because he doesn't seem to say anything about it. And it annoys me a little bit because, you know what? I think Ineos have done some good things. Gary said he didn't like the summer transfer window. I did. So, you know, there's a little bit of negativity towards Ineos, I suppose. But I feel that Manchester United at the moment need vocality more than ever. We've seen it when Jose was in charge. Unfairly, loads of ex-players wouldn't shut up. When Ollie was in charge and it was worse, nobody would say anything because he was a mate. When Ten Hag came in, they all started saying it again. And now Ineos have come in and everybody's forgotten that the Glazers owners. There is a lack of responsibility within the media ex-player community. I liked what Scholes said last week, but actually they should be saying it a lot more because we're not in a good position. And I don't like some of the things that are going on at the football club. Let's get into some of your comments, but I mean, what do I think is going to happen with Garnacho? I suppose that's the big point. Look, it comes across as clear as day to me that Amorim doesn't want Garnacho to go. And to be honest with you, we're starting to understand who Amorim is. I know he's not been here 2 months really yet. Well, he hasn't, has he? And but what did he say about Xerxes? I don't want Xerxes to go, even though Xerxes was potentially, you know, angling for a move. All that Italian stuff was coming from his agent talking to clubs. So maybe it was Xerxes was unsettled, but Amorim wanted to keep him. I don't for 1 minute disagree. I mean, and also Amorim's been really honest in his interviews. He's not played games. When he's been asked about Rashford, he's said he's not working hard in training. I picked the best team I can pick. He's never said anything about Rashford really in the last few weeks about, oh, he'll be in the team in a couple of weeks. He's working hard in training. He's always been really honest. He was honest about Xerxes. I want to keep him, and Xerxes looks like he's staying now. And I think he's being honest about Garnacho, a really big talent that we need to work with to make him. I don't think he wants Garnacho to go at all. I think this is Glazeronomics at play, and I think anybody who's covering it up is basically a Glazer sympathiser. And notice I'm not using the words Ineos anymore because Ineos don't own the club. I'm a bit tired of Ineos and Sir Jim. They don't own the football club. The Glazers own the football club, and Joel Glazer's still working at that football club every bloody day. So it's about time some people actually started speaking about this in the media as well. It's the Glazers, it's Glazeronomics, it's their club. We're still behaving like we always have, and now they're trying to do worse things to the club with the front of Ineos. But Amorim, I don't think he lies. I think he wants Garnacho to stay. I think they'll try and dress it up in a different way. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and throw some mud at Garnacho soon and say that he's desperate to leave. But at the end of the day, if I'm a player at Man United and I'm dedicated to Man United and everybody's saying, we're trying to sell you, you're trying to sell you, at some point I will go, well, I'm fucking going. Paul Ince said this to us a few years ago. He was on the show. He was happy at Man United in '95. Man United, he's on the golf course with Ryan Giggs. He gets a phone call from Sir Alex Ferguson. Where are you? At the golf course. Comes to the golf course and says, we've accepted a bid from Inter Milan. And Ince said, look, you know, I didn't want to leave Man United. I was really happy. But when the manager sits you down and says, I've accepted an offer for you, something kicks in. It's called professional pride. And you go, well, fuck you. You know, they obviously don't want me. And if they don't want me, I'm not going to hang around. There you go. Kyle Robinson says, rebuild has not... Do I think Garnacho is going to stay? Absolutely got no idea. There's no smoke without fire. I think this is being pushed from the Glazers and Ineos to raise money. I don't think Amorim wants it. I don't think Garnacho wants it. But Napoli want it. And I think the Glazers have got enough ammo to push him out the door because they've got somebody willing to buy him. But let me tell you this. £60 million is an absolute robbery. An absolute robbery, and I'll do quick maths with you. He's 20. In 5 years' time, they'll be able to get that money back. He will go to Italy. He will do well. He will increase his value, but even if he retained his value, for £60 million over 5 years, they're paying what? 11 million each year for Garnacho for 5 years, and then they'll get all the money back in 5 years' time at 25. In fact, they might double their money. So all these people saying £60 million for Garnacho is a good deal. I said this about Mainu the other week. £80 million for Mainu at 19 is a bargain. If you're Barcelona or Real Madrid and you spend £80 million on Mainu, which United will probably accept, in 6 years' time, It's cost you 12 million a year. He's still 25. If you get your money back, it's in it. I don't think people understand. If you invest £1 million into something, and in 5 years' time, you get your money back, but in that 5 years, you get like if you buy a Ferrari for £1 million, I know that's too much. If you buy a Ferrari for £1 million, well, no, let's say if you buy a really great house with a swimming pool for £1 million, and for 5 years you live in it, Christmases, pool parties, and then in 5 years' time, you know you're going to get your £1 million back. This is what I'm talking about. People don't think that. Imagine having something for 5 years and getting your money back. A car, you pay a price for a car, you get to use it for 5 years, and then in 5 years you get your money back. I mean, bloody hell, sign me up. And that's what happens when you spend £60 million on a 20-year-old or £80 million on a 19-year-old. In 5 years' time, they will be the same value if you believe that they're as good as I think they are. And I'm not saying they're going to be. And I'm not saying they're going to be world class. If they go from 19, if Mainu or Garnacho goes from 20 to 25 and doubles in talent, then you'll double your money. But if they just stay the same, you'll get your money back. And Garnacho in the Italian league between 20 and 25, mate, he's going to at least hold his value. So you're basically saying to Napoli, there's £60 million. Thank you. There's a player that you'll get the money back for in 5 years. People don't understand how crap a value £60 million is for a 20-year-old with the potential that he's got, who's an Argentinian international and clearly has talent. It's a rubbish deal. It's a cash grab, and it's all about Glazonomics. We need money. It's a terrible deal, and it will bite us in the arse, in my opinion. But there you go. Jack says he really ain't that. Mate, it's £60 million. What does £60 million get you these days? Mason Mount cost us 55. Boom. Anyway, we need to move on. 60 million is pathetic, says Ben Mason. What would Napoli charge us if we came knocking for Garnacho? It's a crap deal. And I think that's a great point as well. Imagine if Garnacho was playing for Napoli or Brighton. Would they be selling him? And he's got a massive contract, by the way. He's not even, you can't even say we've got a year left on. I mean, God, that Mason Mount deal, 1 year left on his deal, and we still gave him £55 million. Don't think Ruben's bothered. Vinny, you might want to listen to his comments. You call him Ruben Amorim Elia then? Vinny, there you go. Vinny, who sometimes talks crap, is basically calling Ruben Amorim Elia. There we go. Thanks, Vinny. Was waiting for somebody to do that. So everything that Ruben Amorim says that we like, and we kiss his arse about, we're going to believe all that, but because you don't like the fact that he wants Garnacho to stay, he's lying now. Lovely stuff. The agenda is so good, Vinny. Thank you. Liverpool sold to buy, and it worked. No, Louis, you're an idiot. So I want to run a news show, but you are trying to compare Man United to Liverpool. Liverpool sold to buy, and it worked. Did Liverpool buy the equivalent of Trent? Did Liverpool sell 20-year-olds with talent to Napoli for £60 million and do exactly what I've just said there? They sold Coutinho to Barcelona for £135 million. In today's money, that was about 180. I mean, you're comparing Garnacho at 20 with talent going to Napoli for a cut price 60 million because we're desperate for money, to Coutinho going to Barcelona for today's value of about 180 million. Oh my God. Oh, let's do it then. Let's sell on the cheap for a better player with more talent because Liverpool got top dollar for Coutinho. They've rebuilt a team because they got about 180 million pounds, mate. Rebuild has not started yet. We'll be like this until summer 2026. Rashford and Casemiro out on loan. We will get loans and freebies. Collier is our new signing, says Keel. Neville's cozying up to Ineos when Salford need investment. Coincidence, says Josh. J.E. says, I do not doubt that the Ineos Glazer finances are applauding towards buying players, but doesn't FFP and the Premier League rules also play a role? Are we against the wall with those things too, says J.E. This is a great point. This is a great point. Somebody said this to me last night, and it's a great point. And I'm not against what I'm about to say here, but there is a fundamental flaw. Somebody said last night, the problem is we are, like Jay says, our back is up against the wall. We are in debt. We have no money. FFP is a problem. PSER is a problem. Amorim needs to buy players. We are up against the wall in a big financial problem. So we need to become Everton and sell our better players to generate cash, which is probably what Everton's problem has been for years. One, why the fuck are we Everton? And two, there's a fundamental thing you're missing here. The reality of the situation is there for us all to see. We are in debt. We do need to bring money in. We are in big problems. And if we want to buy players, we do need to make big decisions. But what people really don't want to talk about and don't want to acknowledge is we collectively did not put ourselves in this situation. We didn't put ourselves in this situation. So when people start moaning about we need to do it, FFP, debt, backs are up against the wall, can you just remember just over a year ago who decided to put us into this position, which everybody didn't want? There was an offer on the table to clear the debt and get rid of the Glazers, and we wouldn't be in this position. The only reason we're talking about selling people like Garnacho and Mainu because our backs are up against the wall is because the Glazers did a deal with Ineos to stay at the football club. And people really need to put that on the front of the papers and at the front of their mind, because that is an absolute fact. I've seen United fans talking about well, you know, you can't, it's, you know, we're in this position. What are we supposed to do? Almost like sympathetic. Remember why we're in the position. We're in this position because the Glazers did a deal with Ineos and they're still here. We would not be in this position if they'd sold the club and disappeared. We wouldn't be in a financial crisis. We wouldn't be up against the wall. We'd have to deal with FFP because that's a Premier League thing, but the liquidity around the club would make that a lot easier because we'd be loaded, absolutely loaded. Liverpool actually extracted value from them. Look at the ages they sold. It's not comparable to Liverpool, says Hashin. Yeah, I know it's not. Chuffbridge says, watch them sell Garnacho for 60, bring in Dorgeles in for 10, then have 50 million pure profit in the summer to do 5 more deals with installments like last summer. Mate, you know how it works. You know how it works. Kay says, always overrating Garnacho, and yet we're not actually talking about Garnacho, Kay. I know some small-minded people are talking about Garnacho. It's not about Garnacho. It's about the symbolisation of selling 20-year-old talents that the manager wants to keep, that has talent. We never should be doing this. We're just Everton. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about your hate or agenda against Garnacho. Probably is going to go. We're talking about the symbolisation of what the club is doing. If your brain can't consume that, I can't go down to your level. They will add a sell-on clause, says Gaz. Yeah, but you're acting like Man United are in a good position, Gaz. We're desperate. We've put everybody up for sale publicly. Man United are not in a strong position here. I guarantee you this deal will be shit. 60 million is pathetic, says Ben. I'm just catching up. We've got a new board because Ten Hag had too much power, and now Neville says the new coach hired by that board is making decisions about selling our players. Why have that board in then? That makes no sense. Well, this is what I mean. Gary's comments don't make any sense. But of course, Gary's shielded off. He won't put himself in a position where he'd answer these legitimate questions in a proper forum. So it's hard to sort of understand whether he's getting fed nonsense by Ineos or it's his own naivety. But yeah, we have a board now with Barada and everybody else on it. But apparently Amorim's telling them who to sell. That's not how it works anymore at Man United. And also, it's not how it works anyway. Thank you very much to Patrick. Josh says, Gary's a legend of the club, but the way he talks about United on commentary and Liverpool and pods is clearly under the cosh of the club, always being PC. Our thin squad means youngsters must play well for 60 games, otherwise sell him. Sir Alex Ferguson gradually brought them into the big squads without stupid pressure, says Avi. Yeah, well, the hypocrisy is hilarious. You've got people saying Garnacho ain't all that at 20, get rid of him. And then yesterday, people are saying we shouldn't have sold Elanga. And what did I say yesterday? When Elanga was here, people wanted to get rid of him because they didn't have the patience to develop him. How old is Elanga now? How old is Elanga? So the hypocrisy is caught in 4K. Elanga is 22. So 2 years ago, he was 20. And he was playing for Man United 2 years ago, and people were saying, he ain't all that, get rid of him. We get rid of him, he goes somewhere else, and 2 years later, everyone's saying we should have kept him. But we would have had to develop him to get him to where he is. But we're now talking about Garnacho, and some people are going, he ain't all that, get rid of him. And in 2 years' time, well, hello, I'm just saying what might happen when he goes somewhere else for 2 years. But we make our mind up about players too quickly. Agate ain't good enough after 2 games. Xerxes not good enough after 4 months. Garnacho's not good enough at 20. Like, we're not, Rasmus is a load of shit at 21. But we don't exactly. Harvey Specter says we should learn from the Elanga sale, Exhibit A. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like we shouldn't be selling players at 20 years of age until we found out whether they're good enough or not, because it will bite us on the arse. But we did it with James Garner. I'm not saying James Garner, I don't know what you think about James Garner. I don't know whether he would have been good enough to be Man United player, but the only reason we sold Garner was because we couldn't sell anybody else, and he represented pure profit. That's why we did it. Rory says, my thing with Garnacho is that if he reaches his potential, he will leave. If not, could we be stuck with him? And 70 million seems like the maximum we could ever get. No, completely disagree, Rory. He is a player that retains massive interest in European football. Obviously, he's got the advantage of being a bit of a player that has an aura, of course. And I would imagine, look, the talent he is, people are acting like he's going to drop off and become the next Jesse Lingard. Like, Garnacho is talented. Is he got the potential to be world class? Yeah, I think he has, but he might not do that. But he's always going to be a good player. He's always going to have an ability. Well, you watch his career, wherever it is. He will always be a good player. We're not going to lose value on him. What we are going to do is cash in on him and regret it, in my opinion. Ray says, if we're going to do it, better not do it cheap. Cole Palmer is the perfect example of why you don't do this, says Sticks. And also, Serie A is worse than the Premier League. Ashley Young went there. He was shit at United, was really good there. Chris Smalling was one of the best defenders in Serie A for 2 years. Scott McTominay is one of the best midfielders in Serie A at the moment as well. So there is already an obvious piece of evidence that when you go from the Premier League to that league, you glow up anyway. And let's not forget, these teams, all right, it's not the Premier League, but they're still playing in the Champions League more than we are. 14th was my 34th birthday, says Lloyd. I would like to thank this community, and my real name is Justin. I love from Chicago. Happy birthday, Justin. Hope you're doing well. I bet Ruben jumps to get Quenda with the Garnacho sale, says Vinny. Won't have the money. Hi, Mark. Do you think Ineos will throw out Glazers like how the Kroenkes threw out Usmanov? Timely process, but Arsenal look goods now, says Sean. We don't develop players anymore, says Ray. Might be in the minority here, but I would take 35 million. There's a reason he's not rated in South America. Full of himself. Next Rashford, we need to start rebuilding. The most ridiculous comment, Artak, but that's fine. They're all welcome. If they cleared the debt, that would hypothetically free the club financially, right, says Trey. Look, we are in a self-inflicted issue. When people defend doing stuff like this because we're in a financial crisis, they don't understand the financial crisis. Man United are in a financial crisis in 2 areas. One of them's to do with transfer spending, and we are up to the limit with wages and revenue. We don't have a lot of manoeuvrability. We're also in a bigger mess because we're in debt and we've got no money. If the Glazers had gone and the debt had been cleared, we'd be wealthy. We'd be wealthy. We'd have loads of money, right? Which is the big problem. This would still be a problem, FFP, no matter how wealthy you are. Look at Newcastle. But FFP is more easily solvable if you're wealthy, because you can start writing contracts off because you've actually got the money. You can start taking lower transfer fees because you've actually got the money. Man United are intertwined with their financial crisis and FFP because if somebody offers us 10 million for Anthony, it makes a bit of a difference on our FFP, but we might do it. But we can't do it because financially we can't afford to take that hit. So they are intertwined. People go, if Qatar are in charge, we'd still have to sell Garnacho. No, we bloody wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. One, they wouldn't want to be seen as a club that sells young players. But 2, you don't need to do that. Financial fair play is solved quite easily. It's all about how much you spend on wages and transfers against your revenue. That's the simple thing. So you need to reduce your wages, sell the shit, and increase your revenue, and you will be able to spend more money. Nobody's expecting that if Qatar were in charge, we'd be buying Mbappe and Wirtz and everyone like that. But we weren't expecting to be selling our better players 12 months later, and that would not have needed to happen. We're in a bad situation. And it's all because of the Glazers. Let me talk to you about a few other bits as well. I mean, where are we in relation to the left-back situation at United? There's still talk of Malacia going. Marcus Rashford, it's all slowed down, if we're being honest. Barcelona and AC Milan looking at it, but apparently it's Rashford's side that slowed it down. This is coming in from Milan News, that Rashford and his representatives were supposed to respond to Milan's offer on Wednesday, but hasn't done that. There's discussion that maybe Barcelona have slowed it down. I mean, I said this last night about the Rashford situation. The only person it's hurting is him. He's not actually going to give us a transfer fee, is he? We're not getting a transfer fee for him, and we'll still pay half of his wages. So for us, we're not going to massively do that well out of it. So I think with regards to Rashford, he's probably just taking time trying to get the best offer he can for himself, which is absolutely fine. But surely the whole purpose of this loan is to play football. And the longer he's not playing, the longer it might take for him to get back. I mean, if he has been ill for the last week, he hasn't played for a month, it's almost, an injury, isn't it? He's got to come back from. So, yeah, I mean, the Rashford story sort of died a death, hasn't it, really? It's not really in the news as much as it was. Maybe that's because of other stories. Maybe that's because United are doing quite well. Maybe because people have become quite bored of it. But I'm sure something will happen at some point. But again, I think we focus on the Rashford deal too much. What, Casemiro? I mean, he's the biggest earner at Man United. Nothing's really happening with him. It's gone very quiet as well. I think as well, if we talk about Glazonomics again, let's not forget that we are walking through a very, very familiar January transfer window, where you come into it and think, we need to bring at least 2 players in. And then you get to a point where you've just gone past halfway and you go, if we get anybody in, anything will do. And we're not even removing the players either. So Casemiro's still here, Antony's still here, Rashford's still here. It feels like the only deal United are working on is Garnacho, which is the deal that shouldn't be happening because it will bring them some money in. So it's just very familiar. We've had the Like-a-New signing contract from Ahmad. We might get the Like-a-New signing from Mainu in the last week of the window. If I was a betting person, I wouldn't mind if I were on that. We're just walking a very, very familiar path with January transfer windows, and it surprises me because the one thing that sort of stood out was that I really did think that naively Ineos would want to do things differently to the Glazers. I don't know why I thought this. I just thought, you know what, for PR purposes and to show that they mean business, you would want to do easy win things that the Glazers didn't do. For example, be active in a January transfer window when we're never active. That would appease fans and make them pleased. Also, new manager comes in, back that manager in the first opportunity, shows intent. But more and more, they seem to do things the Glazers would do. Sack people, increase ticket prices, like a new contract, like a new signing. Time is passing in this January transfer window, and whilst things could turn around, and as I say, I wasn't unhappy with the summer transfer window, I think that going back to what Gary Neville said about us doing 1 or 2 deals, I don't know how. We've got 2 weeks left of this window. We never do big deals in 2 weeks. I don't think we've ever done a transfer in 2 weeks. We might do a loan deal in 2 weeks, but even those take a long time. I mean, I remember Christian Eriksen was free on July the 1st. We didn't sign him till the middle of July. Agate, David Ornstein linked to us at the end of June, didn't sign him till the end of August. Mazraoui and De Ligt took weeks, and we think we're going to sign someone in 2 weeks. I don't see it at the moment. I think time is running out. In relation to a left-back, Court Offside have said that Out-Nouri at left-back from Wolves is seen as a possibility for Manchester United, with Malacia potentially moving away. But I look at these, and the same article says Malacia, I look at these and I say to myself, 2 weeks. I can smell the bullshit. I think we're educated enough to be justified in our scepticism of Out-Nouri at Wolves. We've said it before. He would be a decent option. And removing Malacia would be, you know, good. But 2 weeks, I don't see it. Talking of 2 weeks, like a new signing. Guess who's going to be back in 2 weeks? Right at the end of the transfer window, like a new signing. And he's a left back. Yes, you've guessed it, Luke Shaw. Grandpa Simpson's going to walk in, put his coat on, pick it up and walk back out the door. I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? United, you know, swimming through another shit January transfer window, and news drops last night that in 2 weeks Luke Shaw's going to be back. Right at the start of February, right at the end of the January transfer window. I mean, I don't even know what to think about Luke Shaw anymore. I really don't. I mean, the guy is so protected, it's unbelievable. I can't believe the lack of scrutiny the British press have put on Luke Shaw. And look, maybe they're not putting scrutiny on him because they've got knowledge of, I don't know, mental health problems or something like that, which would be very, very admirable. But my argument would be, if he was French, you'd fucking bury him every single day like you have done with numerous other foreign players. But Luke Shaw for 12 months, 18 months, has barely kicked a ball, got himself fit for England, gets injured again, doing TikToks on New Year's Eve, never bloody fit, and they never write a word about him. Never write a word about him. But every other player, it's a little bit different, isn't it? 1 minute, I have to get this. It's Luke Shaw. In. I had my ring go outside the door there because I had to listen to that. I had to get that today. I'll be playing with that later. Massive it is, 12 inches. It's electric knife. Anyway, yeah, as I said, so Luke Shaw's going to be back in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think because I am going to say this again. I think Luke Shaw, when he's fit, is one of the best left backs in the world. But it's like having a Ferrari in your drive that's got no engines and no tyres and they've been discontinued and they never will have one. I can tell everybody in my garage I've got a Ferrari that when it's got wheels and an engine is really good. But I can also say it's never going to have engines and a wheel as well. And I feel like that's what we've got with Luke Shaw. There's no doubting his quality. But we're never going to get it purring. It's never going to happen. Cad says, I get what you're saying about Ineos, but what does complaining about it do? Every video last week or two is just complaining about Ineos and the Glazers, says Cads. Well, you're on, I mean, Cads, you're a very, very fair point. Everybody is entitled to have an opinion on things. We've been doing this for 10 years. We're passionate about Manchester United. And my answer to you would be, so we just sit and do nothing then? That's not how my personality works. It's not like most people's personality work. When they see injustice and they see things that they love being abused, they don't sit back and do nothing. And you might say that's a bit strong, but I love Manchester United, and for the last 20 years, it's been abused by the Glazers. It has. So what you're saying is, and I've got no problem with it, because there are people like you who sit back and do nothing. You're saying, why moan about it? And I'm saying, because I care about it, because everybody cares about it, and it's a disgrace how this club has been run for the last 20 years. It's a disgrace. And, you say, what can we do about it? Well, very little, because our fan base is so fucking divided by people who are out for themselves and don't actually put the interests of the club forward. We could do stuff. As I said, if Liverpool had this problem, they wouldn't have the Glazers. And I hate saying that because I don't like Liverpool, but they know how to make things happen. Our fan base doesn't. We're too splintered. I've been in this game for 10 years. There are other content creators that have been in this game for 10 years. we should have done content years ago. It won't happen. You know, people say you should be doing some content with Gary Neville. It won't happen because egos get in the way. And I'm never going to stop saying the things I say, and I don't think anybody else who's like me is ever going to stop saying those things because they need to be said. What can we do about it? Well, it's very difficult for the reasons I've just said, but we have to keep talking about it because otherwise they've won completely. You have to. You have to. But there are people like Cads who just see a problem and go, what can I do about it, and walk away. It's that definition from Spider-Man, isn't it? You know, evil prospers when good people do nothing. And I don't understand why not more is being done. It feels like I'm very worried that because Ineos have come in and because they're British and local, everyone's sort of gone, it's fine. But they don't own the football club. The same people do. It's almost like a smokescreen at the moment. I'm very worried. And I really like Amorim, and Ineos brought Amorim in. And I liked the summer transfer window, and Ineos did that. So I'm still labouring, maybe naively, under this hope that they can be good. But I think it's impossible to be good when you're actually under the thumb of the Glazers. That's the problem. I wish Sir Jim owned all the fucking club, because at least then I know everything that's happening is coming from him. I don't believe all the things that are happening are Ineos-led. I don't believe ticket prices are Ineos-led. We were told that Ineos were taking over the football side of things. And yet we get told Ineos are sacking people, that Ineos are sacking Christmas parties, that they're sacking off paying charities, that they're increasing ticket prices. That's not the football side of things. That's business. But you'll get The Athletic and the Manchester Evening News and the Daily Mail and everyone telling us that Ineos are raising ticket prices, but that's not the deal they did apparently. So we don't even know how our club's being run at the moment. Joel Glazer's still involved day to day. What does he do? Probably the same stuff he was doing before, but it's Ineos. So that's why I think we talk about it, because I wish Sir Jim owned all of the club. I wish Ineos owned all of the club, because then everything they do, we'd know it was them. I think more and more people are starting to think, you know, how much of this is Ineos and how much of it is a front? You know, and why would Ineos put themselves in that position? Vanity. Because if it works, you will get the credit. If it doesn't work, the Glazers will be protected. Could Jim not get Ineos to sponsor the name of the stadium for 250 million? Yes, he could, Ian. Yeah, there is ways to get sponsorship from Ineos into the football club. I think Swedish Rumble was talking about this last week. There is another left back update as well. I saw this yesterday. I don't know how much true it's going to be. It came from the Independent, or iNews actually. Kirkez, Man United have been dealt a major transfer blow with Liverpool ready to agree a deal to sign Kirkez from Bournemouth. He's 21. He's been one of the outstanding left-sided defenders in the Premier League this season. It's added that Kirkez favours a move to Anfield, eliminating any hope for United. It's Fabrizio that's linked us to Kirkez, if we're being honest. And I like him. Right, you know, young player. I can't believe I'm saying this. 21-year-old who will get better between the next 4 years. It's almost like we've got a 20-year-old that we're trying to sell who will get better over the next few years. But yeah, the hypocrisy. Oh, well, let's get Kirkez because he's young and he can develop. Yeah, let's sell Garnacho. He won't develop. But anyway, I don't think we will get Kirkez. Romano's been on about it for 12 months. Why would you choose Man United over Liverpool? Good point. Liverpool have probably got more money than Man United. Liverpool will be in the Champions League. Also, I think it's very obvious that we want Mendes from PSG. So not even any drama. I don't think we're actually going for Kirkez, because the clue, I always try and speak like Amorim and drop you a little bit of a clue. The clue for me is that we have been linked to Kirkez by Fabrizio for 12 months. Has Amorim been the manager of Manchester United for 12 months? We've had this with Ten Hag, where players that we were linked to under Ollie were still getting linked to us again. We happened with Mourinho and Ollie, where players like Milinkovic-Savic, who was a Mourinho target, was still being linked to Man United under Ollie. These are legacy links. I think Kirkez was a Ten Hag target, that because we still need a left back, Kirkez gets mentioned. Ever since Amorim's come in, It's been very clear that he wants Mendes or different left backs. So look, I like Kirkez, but I don't see it as a transfer blow. I think it makes for a good story, and you know, as I say, when there's a reason to moan or be negative about something, why not? But I'm also not going to just, you know, bowl on from one negative to another. I don't think this is a transfer blow for Manchester United. I don't think this is a reason to moan. Some people might. I don't. I don't think we're missing out on Kirkez to Liverpool. I don't think we're looking at Kirkez. I think he was a Ten Hag target because we need. You know, guess what? We've needed a left back for 2 years, so it's not like we've suddenly started looking for a left back. I think Kirkez was a player that Ten Hag wanted, and he had the power to want that. Of course, we've now got a different transfer structure, and I don't think Kirkez is a player that Man United want. I think it's Mendes at PSG. So yeah, I think it's a good signing for Liverpool. I mean, look, I think Anthony Robinson at Fulham, who got another 2 assists the other night at West Ham, I think he's a good signing as well. I think there are some good games. There are some good players out there, but I don't think Kirkez is a target for Man United anymore. Must-win game tonight, says Paul. Yeah, look, match day. Very excited. Looking forward to it. Amorim has said that Harry Maguire was virtually dead when he came off against Arsenal. Obviously, he'd been ill. Look, I check the preview out. I leave Maguire out and I put Yoro in. And then I bring Maguire on for the second half and I take De Ligt off. I think De Ligt and Maguire put in ridiculous shifts on Sunday. We've got a game against Brighton on Sunday. We've got Rangers on the following Thursday. We don't have a lot of rotation options. So I would be rotating against Southampton. Not massively. I wouldn't be changing. I mean, people are talking about playing Eriksen. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. We need to get the game won and then make subs. But I would leave Maguire out. Yoro's been knocking on the door of a start for a long time. He would have started in previous seasons ages ago. It's just the fact that Martinez, Maguire and De Ligt have been playing so well. So I'd play Yoro tonight with an eye on giving Maguire a bit of a rest, and I'd be looking to get De Ligt off as well at half-time. Delot can't play. Some people were talking about that. I'd like to see Garnacho start tonight as well. I think that would send a big message as well. Hi, Mark. I'm already done with Ineos, says Kieran. The one positive thing they do, there's a million bad ones. Funny how big accounts go quiet. We need protests. Could done that one. Alex, thank you very much for your super chat. If we had Qatar in charge, we would be signing best players in the world, not trying to sell them, says Dazzo. Rashford needs to be careful playing Billy Big Bollocks and pissing off these big clubs. He might end up at Como, says Chuffbridge. Let's stop the false narrative that McTominay is one of the best Serie A midfielders. I watch Serie A a lot and he's nowhere near, says Razvin. No, what I'm saying is he's had a glow up. Most people wanted McTominay to go. He's now doing well in a team that's in a title race. What I'm saying is, all right, I probably did misword it, Razvin. I take that on board. But what I'm saying is he's gone to that league and done really well. And so's Chris Smalling. I think if you go from Man United to Serie A, you're going to do well. David says, when will the English press stop asking Amorim about Rashford? It's getting boring. And Marlowe says, selling Elanga was a mistake, but that was the old regime. Selling Garnacho would be a big stain on the new regime that they can't wash off. Was it the old regime, though, Marlowe? Was it the old regime? I don't think it is. There is no old regime. The Glazers were there now, and they own the club today. Sal Mainu, bring in Edison and Mendes, says Andy Atherton. Oh, my God. Makes me want to cry. Makes me want to cry. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in. Fantastic conversation. Last night's show was so good. There were so many brilliant comments coming in. It's been the same this morning. Love the community. And can't wait for tonight, actually. A bit of escapism. Let's break the Premier League goal record. I'm going 12-0. Looking forward to it. 8 o'clock kickoff. I'll be live with you at 7:30, but countdown to kickoff in the Manchester studio starts at 6. Obviously, we'll go live if anything happens anywhere before then. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. It's all about opinion. It's all about opinion. You can have one. It's fine. Thanks for watching.